Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, shockingly enough, thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard, everyone. Tonight is Tuesday, June 9th, 2026. This is live stream 1331. If you're not overly familiar with the show, let me point out it's super casual around here, just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news. Usually we skew towards the role-playing game side of things, but every once in a while, we'll talk some miniatures, talk some board games. But we're just hanging out, having some fun. We're certainly not engaged in anything like rocket surgery by any stretch of the imagination. So there is that. Now, of course, when you're not watching videos here on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you're never actually going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And then, of course, because this is a live show, there is chat available. Now, you must be a subscriber to the channel for at least an hour before you can take part in chat. So keep that in mind. If you can check off that box and you want to say howdy, maybe get a question, a comment, by all means, chime in. I will do my absolute best to respond. First out the gate tonight is Semper Buffo. Keithulu's with us, as is our good friend of the show, the Madman, Danny Gable, Peaceful Porcupine, Velamir Cleaver. All of them are joining us. Michael Berry's popping on in, as is 108 Jimbos, DB, and Dan Murray. And we may have the lovely and talented Miss Sarah D, who's, I believe, recovered from her cataract surgery. So she can see me and all my horridness. Oh, God, look, oh, I'm not watching this show anymore. Whoa. That's making my eyes bleed. And then again, maybe she's not watching. I don't know. Harvey Chuckles is chiming on in as well. So welcome, everybody. Looks like we've got chat off and rocking tonight. Of course, there was no show last Thursday. I had a bout of food poisoning. I'll talk a little bit about that after we do the news. I got some other things we're going to chat a little bit about. And then, of course, tonight's topic, I'm going to share what I feel is the first key in any sort of world building for a role-playing game. And some of you out there might think it's pretty damn obvious. Other people might be a little surprised by this. So stay tuned. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on in the show. I see that Kevin King is joining us. Welcome. Always good to see Kevin. So why don't we jump on into the news? Because August is going to bring the print edition of Dragonbane Arcand, City of Waves and Flames. Here's the latest from Free League Publishing. Welcome to Arcand, the City of Waves and Flames, easternmost edge of the known world, gateway to the shores beyond, and home to the curious and daring. This is a place for countless hours of adventure, a place to lose yourself in, or return to between other adventures in the world of Dragonbane. It is a setting meant to be shaped by you and your players. From the Citadel of Broken Wings and the Temple of True Fire, high atop Dragon Rock, to the Witless Unicorn Tavern and the Cracked Pearl Gambling Den deep in the slums of the Dung, the city of Arcand pulses with excitement, conflict, rumors, and the promise of adventure, wealth, power, and glory. This book features 20 adventure sites spread across 5 districts, along with a number of campaign seeds. The player characters will experience a fierce power struggle in the city's underworld, take on the role of demon hunters, and uncover secrets about Arcane's storied past that could change the city forever. Forever. The 174-page hardcover with PDF will carry an MSRP of $44.99. Of course, you can make sure you're going to score that PDF if you order from Free League Publishing. This is slated to land in stores on August 25th. I am going to take a guess this will be a Gen Con release. So might score our copies then. Now, I'll take a guess that the PDF will be available right around that same time, maybe about a week or so before. Probably for about anywhere from $19.99 to $24.99 is going to be my guess. All right, very nice. Good to see. We've got a couple of Dragonbane releases on the horizon. This is one of them. And yes, it is one of the mallard folk, one of the duck folk, right on the cover. Very nice. Which is kind of a nod to RuneQuest, as far as I understand. So I thought that was a nice little thing that I've been informed of as far as when this first came out. Because I think the role-playing game that has become Dragonbane, I forget, it's like Demonok Dragons or something like that. Yeah, obviously Swedish. That originally had the duck folk because it was a nod to RuneQuest. I thought that was pretty cool. Very nice. Moving right along, our next news piece currently up for crowdfunding is The Bad Year from MacGuffin and Co. Here's what I know. The Bad Year is a collection of 53 horror investigation adventures designed for either standalone one-shots or interwoven into campaign play. Each adventure takes place in a different week for a full year of spooky seasonal mysteries. System-neutral adventures are included for any horror investigation role-playing game, such as the Magnus Archives RPG, Call of Cthulhu, or Monster of the Week, just to give you a few examples. Modern urban Gothic setting is included in this with easy-to-transplant features to work with your own campaign. You'll find interconnected storylines that can be woven together or followed as single strands. There are 4 different ways to play The Bad Year. First of all, we have the Annus Horribilis. The all 53 adventures approach in order. So 1 for each week of the year, plus a double-length Halloween extra to bring it all to a close. There's the Astrological Year, 13 adventures dealing with the main plot, the Grand Occultation, designed for monthly sessions. Your personal calendar, follow a specific arc or mix and match your favorite storylines. And then we've got One Bad Week. Drop an adventure into any ongoing campaign or just dip your toes in for some short-term terror. The adventures in The Bad Year are system-neutral, one-page mysteries filled with supernatural horror. Each one is a single double-page spread with a clue map on one side and a detailed breakdown on the other. This Kickstarter is fully funded. You can reserve a copy of the A4-sized hardcover with PDF for a pledge of approximately $54. If you want to score just the PDF, you can do so for a pledge of approximately $25 through June 25th. Expected fulfillment is this October, which would allow you to kick off The Bad Year when it's supposed to start. So fingers crossed on that. Let's see. MK Fort is with us tonight. I believe this is a return visit. It's just been a while since we've seen them, so welcome. Der Krieger is with us. talking a little bit about the original Dragonbane, because it was basic role-playing localized in Sweden. And let's see, Pete Straglich has popped on in. Very nice. Very nice. Sweet. And Valimir Cleaver is jumping the gun with our topic tonight. Couldn't wait till we get to the topic itself, Valimir. Jumping the gun there. Moving right along. The Broncolonia 5e setting from Acheron Games is the focus of 2 new bundle of holding offers. I've got the deets on the core deal. Adventure. You'll find that bundle of holding is resurrected their November 2024 Broncolonia bundle with English language PDFs of the, obviously enough, Broncolonia tabletop role-playing campaign setting from Acheron Games for the 5th edition of Dungeons & Dragons and compatible systems. Set in a topsy-turvy version of medieval Italy, this unheroic, picaresque, and roguish world draws on Italian culture and pop culture from Umberto Eco to Corto Maltese, Renaissance epics, and Italo Calvino, The Princess Bride, Pinocchio, and 100 more. Broncolonia is a brawly, low-fantasy land of legendary knights and skilled treasure hunters. But you're not them. You're knaves, low-life swindlers, slobs, and scoundrels who get pulled out of prison to fix things after those heroes mess up. You might take jobs from talking mice, omnipotent fairies, devils from Inferno, and foul-mouthed marionettes. If you climb the ranks of your free company, you can hope to pull off a heist that will set you up for life. What could possibly go wrong? This revived Broncolonia bundle once again gives you everything you need, well, aside from the D&D rule books, to run lighthearted, low-magic adventures for easygoing knaves who may not prevent calamity but will definitely drink good wine beforehand. For just $12.95, you get all 4 English language titles in this revived offers Broncolonia collection, which has a retail value of $53 as DRM-free PDFs, including the complete 196-page Broncolonia setting book, plus the free Quick Start rules, the Macaronicon rules expansion, the war-themed full-length campaign, The Empire Wax Back, and a miscellany of characters, equipment, monsters, and adventures in Jinx's Almanac. You'll also find its Pay What You Want digital lasagna mega bundle with tons of digital artwork, characters, maps, and tokens are included absolutely free. This revived bundle once again gives you everything you need. Yes, very, very nice. And these savings will run through June 22nd. And you may recall, I have reviewed Broncolonia as well as the Macaronicon. If I remember correctly, I think I have also reviewed the Empire Wax Back. I know I've got Jinx's Almanac. I just don't remember if I reviewed it. I don't know. But if you are not familiar with Broncolonia, this is a blast. It does really dip into all different pop culture. And yes, some of it is from Italy, so I didn't necessarily catch on to it. A lot of Dante's Inferno, actually, which some of that I did kind of click with. But, you know, obviously Star Wars and Princess Bride and so forth. So pretty nice. Very nice. Lona's Cave has joined us in chat, and Miss Sarah D has popped on out. Sarah D said, for some reason, YouTube took them to Thursday's show. You mean the show that didn't exist? All right. Moonrise Long. July brings the latest release in the Pathfinder Lost Omens series from Paizo Inc. Here's what I know about High Seas. Set a course for grand adventures with this expansive hardcover guide to the open waters of the inner sea. Since time immemorial, the people of Golarion have been setting out into the sea to gather resources, ply their trades, and seek secrets both above and below the water. Explore the failed utopia of the island of Hermia, the home of deadly red mantis assassins on Medigali Island. The mysteries of the Mordant Spire grown from the remains of a dead god, the countless pirate-scoured islands of the Shackles, or the dangerous depths of underwater regions. Each entry within this gazetteer includes the history, culture, and current events of the region, as well as a major city to include in a variety of adventures. The book also includes new character options, as well as a fold-out poster map. High Seas sets sail July 1st. The 128-page hardcover will carry an MSRP of $44.99. And I am looking forward to checking that out. And of course, Sammy will have a review of that also. So, I'm sure many of you saw the news about Paizo Inc. We're going to talk a little bit about that. That's not our topic tonight, so we're not going to dive heavily into it. But we are going to discuss a little bit, because I've gotten some pushback from people, and they're like, oh, you did that video saying that Paizo is in bad a shape as you might think. Well, what about this? We're going to talk about that. I'm not going to go stick my head in the sand. We will discuss in just a few moments. Let's wrap up with our final news piece, because now available in print for Castles and Crusades, it's also available in PDF, I should point out, is the Forest of Spores adventure from Frog God Games. Here's what I know. What terror waits in the Bungus Forest? The villagers are on edge after a forest of spores appeared on their doorstep. Brave heroes are needed to venture inside, but will they return? This adventure is the perfect start to an Underrealms campaign. Forest of Spores is a Castles and Crusades adventure for 3 to 6 characters of 5th to 7th level. The characters are sent to help the hamlet of Jensenville, which is being overrun by a fast-growing mushroom forest. After learning what the townfolk know, the characters delve into the forest depths and find a group of mushroom people unaware of the town's plight. The mushroom people are from the village of Moiseran, which is threatened by an enormous albino bullet. Spoilers! The monster has taken up residence in the town's compost pile, which doubles as their nursery and food stores. Okay, remember, they're mushroom people. So that would make sense, right? That it's their nursery. The 24-page softcover with PDF is available over at DriveThruRPG for $24.99. If you want to score just PDF, you can do so for $13.99. And Forest of Spores is tonight's PDF giveaway. So stay tuned. I will have a relatively easy trivia question. So the first correct answer is going to win a copy. And then, of course, I will come up with something for folks who are watching on Memorex and those who are watching live who didn't get a chance to win, to get a second chance at this adventure in PDF. All right, that is it for the news tonight. Of course, I just mentioned DriveThruRPG. Don't forget, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you're going to go visit DriveThruRPG, Storytellers Vault, Dungeon Masters Guild, Wargame Vault, any of the numerous One Bookshelf sites, please stop by thegaminggang.com first, click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase on most sales, I get a 5% commission. And all those commissions really do add up, help keep thegaminggang.com around. Also, if you like the video, by all means, give it a quick thumbs up. If you're watching live, taking part in chat, hit the little heart or 100% or whatever you'd like to do there. Show a little interaction. If you're watching on a mobile device, if you got some hype points available to sprinkle on, that's always appreciated as well. But if you happen to dig the Gaming Gang and you'd like to support the outlet, you can do so in a couple of other ways as well. First, by making a one-time donation by way of PayPal. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. Yes, my camouflaged The Gaming Gang mug is upstairs. It's like a travel cup, you know. Yeah. So you can do that. You can also become a monthly member of our Patreon. You'll find links to all of that down in the show notes. Also in the show notes, you're going to find an invite link to our Discord server. It's absolutely free to sign up. So be sure to hang with the gang over on Discord. And then, of course, during our live shows, I always like to give a shout out to our Patreon members. So tip of the cap to Ben Oldthwaite, Caval, Kevin R. Smith, Talzek, Peaceable Porcupine, Sean O'Donnell, Herman Letman, Gustavo Cavalho, the Tabletop Scholar, Kevin King, Game Cat, RPG Munch, Tier 2 DM, Far Adrift, Pete Strakulich, Dan Webb, Testy Trekkie, Agile Monk, The Madman, and Flint Fireforge. Thank you all very, very kindly. So before we talk a little bit about Paizo, some other items I wanted to mention. So, of course, I ended up with a bout of food poisoning last Thursday. Had dinner. I had made a Caesar salad mix. You know, you can go buy at a store. So we have Aldi here. So I went to Aldi, got that, made that. And then I had some leftover ham steak and mashed potatoes, which we'd had the night before. So I always try to, get rid of the leftovers and that. And within about 20 minutes of finishing that, I knew I had food poisoning. I knew it because I've had food poisoning before, and I've had food poisoning really bad. Back when I was, probably mid-20s from Zabaro spaghetti. And I mean, that food poisoning knocked me for a loop for like 2 weeks. And then for the next 6 months, my sense of taste was all messed up. So anyway, so that's why there was no show on Thursday. I came down here. It was about 6:15. Started getting ready, and I'm like, ooh, yeah, something's not right. And I thought to myself, I better go upstairs. Maybe if I just yak, I'll be okay. And so I wasn't going to sit here and be like, well, I'll just do the live show and be like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure that would have gone viral, but no, not for the right reasons. So thankfully, it only affected me for that night and then most of the next day. And I think part of it is because, I don't know if this is the case or not, but I take biotics. So I think that might have had something to do with me not getting it. I mean, number one, that I rejected it that quickly. And yes, food poisoning hits you fast. I've had people argue with me. It's like, oh no, it takes a few hours. Depending on what it is, depending on what the bug is, it can hit you in like 15 minutes. So anyway, Anywho, so sorry about that, everybody. So that's why some of the news tonight, well, actually, all of the news tonight was what would have been the news last Thursday. It's still all applicable, but there are some news items that I would have normally shared today, but I figured, okay, I'm just going to share it with you tomorrow. Some really nice bundles out there that we're going to get into it. Kevin R. Smith has popped in and said, yeah, I was wondering if Jeff's next topic is going to be Paizo is in financial trouble after all. Okay, so let's talk about that. Like I said, yeah, somebody had commented, what was it, 11 days ago? I did that video, something like that, 10 days ago. They commented on it and said, oh, this didn't age well, did it? Actually, here's a reality. Now, if you watch the show live, as Kevin R. Smith, I do believe, watched it, I talked about how people were claiming Paizo Inc. was in financial trouble because they went woke and they weren't selling product. Right? Isn't that what I talked about? So, remember I said, hey, they do like $30+ million in sales a year. So the reality is the title of that video still applies. Paizo Inc. isn't in as dire straits as you might think because, okay, they had to lay off a dozen people and they've tweaked some of their plans. But as far as, upcoming product and stuff like that, I did not, I read their announcement. I didn't encounter anything saying that, oh, well, we're just going to push back or anything like that. So I commented with somebody over on the Discord because they had said, hey, you saw this. I mean, you were, I guess it was kind of like you were essentially wrong. And I said, well, here's the thing. And like, I'm not like trying to stick up for myself. What I'm trying to say is, number one, the topic was totally different, right? Because the people I heard, as Kevin R. Smith points out, yep, it was just the usual chirping from the right wing with their, right wing, left wing, whoever. The folks who always talk about the, go woke, go broke kind of thing. Well, that's not the case with Paizo Inc. Okay. They sell product. Something else to keep in mind, they took a $2.5 million hit because of Diamond. And I can tell you right now, outside of Wizards of the Coast, I don't think there's any other publisher out there that would have survived that kind of hit. I mean, think about it. Free League Publishing, I don't believe so. Chaosium Inc., no. Cubicle 7 Games, probably not. So the reality is, I mean, they've just come out and said, hey, we lost $2.5 million. And mainly it's because of so much product that Diamond had. And that Diamond, well, the warehouses still have. Here's something else I want to point out, and I'm not sure how many of you are aware of this. The whole fiasco with Diamond, and yes, it is completely shitty, and Diamond had been run like shit for a long time, at least 10 years. They told companies what was coming. I have been told, off the record, sadly, but I have been told by some publishers that you're very familiar with by way of the Gaming Gang, that they had been contacted multiple times from Diamond, and they were basically talking about, hey, you have to fill out these forms here because we're gonna file, and that the companies that did that were fine because they got their product back. So I'm not trying to like stick up for Diamond whatsoever. But you know, we talk about this all the time because it's not just game publishers who are in trouble here. It's comic book publishers, it's book publishers, authors, stuff like that, because essentially Diamond was consignment. So the creators would pay to ship the items to Diamond. Diamond would store them. Diamond would distribute them, like they were how Paizo Inc. releases would get into, like Borders, as an example. In a lot of comic book stores, stuff like that, right? So what eventually ends up happening is all that inventory is now well, not all of the inventory, but a great amount of the inventory is sitting in these warehouses or warehouse, and Diamond wants to sell it off to pay off their creditors. And it's legal for them to do that, which is what I think is completely crazy. The person who's talked about this the most is Stephen Glicker over at Roll for Combat. Has kind of discussed this because he's one of the publishers that got fucked. I mean, let's be honest, that's the only word you can use from Diamond. But getting back to Paizo Inc., yeah, Paizo Inc.'s in trouble. Okay, so they've said they have to lay off a dozen individuals. Part of the reason why they made that announcement is because it's in their union rules that if they lay off employees, they have to publicly declare that. I got to be honest, I think if they didn't have that union, I think Paizo Inc. would have probably kind of kept it kind of like, on the down low, right? But yeah, I'm not saying that, oh, well, it's no big deal. But yeah, Paizo Inc., yeah, they're, I wouldn't say they're in dire straits, because for one, you have to also keep in mind that as far as role-playing game publishers go, they've got some fairly deep pockets. So I'm not saying that they can easily absorb a $2.5 million loss in a fiscal year, but it's not like they don't sell product. So anyway, Bellamere Cleaver says, read the stories that have been running at Ain't It Cool News the past year regarding Diamond. Yeah, it should not have come as a shock. Kevin R. Smith says, specifically, I think JP Morgan Chase wants to force Diamond to sell the consignment inventory to pay what Diamond owes them. Kevin R. Smith said, yeah, that consignment inventory in limbo is a huge problem. Of course it is, right? Because you figure the publishers had to pay to have that created. So they're already, that's one of the things that Stephen Glicker was talking about. It's like, hey, you know what? We paid to produce these items, and now we've got absolutely no return on that investment. Spelling Mistake is with us. Says, I hope Paizo pulls through. I think they will. Things might change. I think somebody just mentioned something about this in chat. I think the virtual tabletop aspects of Pathfinder are going to take a hit. But let's see. Says the Diamond situation sucks, but they've also made some weird decisions. Book sales are down, so you hike your prices up $20 more than your competitors. They got a union, baby. And I'm for unions, don't get me wrong. I'm not for unions like I would have been at, say, the turn of the 20th century, where it was like, Oh yeah, you're 7 years old. You can mine coal like anybody else. You get down there, boy, and bring your little sister. But I mean, I still think unions do serve a purpose, just maybe not as critical as they had been. 245 Trey Oxen's with us. Says prices are up across the board for everything. That is a topic of conversation with just about everybody I know about oh my God, I can't believe how expensive all this is. Anyway, all right. So there you go. So that's what I had to say about Paizo Inc. Like I said, I wasn't going to stick my head in the sand, but the conversation we had, the topic we were talking about had nothing to do with Diamond. It had to do with some folks out there talking about, because probably it was floating around in the wind. Somebody caught wind of something. Somebody at Paizo caught wind that, the straits were more dire than they were led to believe, and they leaked it out to people. And, you know how these drama farmers are. And then they just, of course, just jumped right to it and were like, oh, well, yeah, because they're woke. It's like nobody buys Call of Cthulhu anymore because it's woke. It's Cthulhu woke. No, it's not. Kevin R. Smith says, yeah, they got a union. They made the decision to improve their paper quality and go to green paper before the tariffs and stuff hit the fan. Yeah, that's very true. Very true. I say it all the time. Once again, and we're going to get into something tomorrow with an exceptionally good bundle. In fact, you can find out about the two bundles I'm going to talk about on tomorrow's news portion, because you can go over to thegaminggang.com because the articles are already up. But situations like this, if you are cool with PDFs, that's where you keep your eyes peeled. You got to keep your eyes peeled for the bundles out there, because you will find that you will get just phenomenal deals out there on loads and loads of different role-playing games. I mean, just recently, we have had phenomenal offers for Delta Green. We've had Pathfinder. We'll talk about one that's just started that's going on now, tomorrow. But, I mean, like introductions to role-playing games. Oh, Traveler. We've seen Traveler. So when you already know that the products from a particular publisher are pricier than others, but you're still interested in that, keep your eyes peeled. Now, if you're a person who's like, no, I can't do PDFs. Okay, I understand. But you are going to have to pay for physical books. The Madman says they witnessed a guy screaming at an auto parts store employee over the increase in the price of oil. The guy simply refused to understand the situation with Iran. So it was the auto parts store employee who was at fault? That would be like, exactly like bitching at the cashier at a grocery store because the price of groceries. They don't have anything to do with it. Kevin King says, Paizo has a lot of physical Pathfinder First Edition and Starfinder First Edition on clearance at 50% off. Yeah, that's true as well. Okay, next thing I wanted to mention. So, don't worry, I did not forget about the Cyberpunk Red contest for the Cyberpunk Red core book. There's another bundle. Cyberpunk Red, right? Smoking bundle on that from Artel Saurian Games. Anyway, so our Memorex winner, I guess we'll start calling them, is Roy Goodman. So, Roy, all you need to do is send an email to Jeff McAleer at thegaminggang.com from your Gmail account that's associated with your YouTube, and I will set you up with your copy of the Cyberpunk Red core book in PDF. F. All right, so as I mentioned, tonight's giveaway is going to be for a copy of Forest of Spores from the fine folks over at Frog God Games. It is a Castles and Crusades adventure. So, trivia question I'm going to ask is about Castles and Crusades. And the question is, the attributes of the player characters are identical to most of the classic fantasy role-playing games like D&D, right? But those attributes are broken into two groups that actually will have a major impact on the numbers you need to roll to be successful with things you're attempting to do related to those attributes. What are those two groups called? And first person who gets me that correct answer is going to win a copy of Forest of Spores. So on that note, I'll let you get at it. And I think it's time for a brief intermission.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out for a delicious snack in our sparkling refreshment building. Every item a fresh, appetizing taste treat.
I am the captain of the good ship Pleasure. Come join the crew in search of a treasure. The treasure has been sighted from the old crow's nest. Be prepared to find what you like best. There's candy for you of quality fine. In fact, an assortment that is so divine. The soda pop is cold, just name your brand. The ice cream is delicious and it's right at hand. If it's popcorn you want, well, take my cue. We have the very finest in the world for you. Just steer a course straight up the aisle. We'll have an intermission for a little while.
We're thirsty.
Oh, I brought some orange drink. What's that?
Orange flavor Kool-Aid. Has vitamin C, it's less expensive, and kids like it better than canned orange drink.
Not my kids. This is the leading orange drink.
Wait till they try Kool-Aid.
Mom, will you get Kool-Aid for us?
Vitamin C, less expensive, and they like it better. Kool-Aid, welcome to camp.
Orange-flavored Kool-Aid brand soft drink mix. The taste the leading canned drink can't match.
Mr. Cow.
Yes?
How many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
I don't know. I always end up biting. Ask Mr. Fox, for he's much cleverer than I.
Mr. Fox, how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
Why don't you ask Mr. Turtle, for he's been around a lot longer than I. Me, I bite.
Mr. Turtle, how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
I never made it without biting. Ask Mr. Owl, for he is the wisest of us all.
Mr. Owl, how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
A good question. Let's find out. 1, 2, 3.
If there's anything I can't stand, it's a smart owl.
How many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop? The world may never know.
Oh, heck, my flying saucer's out of atomic fuel.
I'm even worse off. I'm out of Wilkins coffee.
At Dante's Inferno, the ultimate video game has come to life.
This is arcade, and it's all done in virtual reality. It's so real, you'll actually think that you're in the game board.
I am arcade. If you want to play games, you picked the wrong machine.
You gotta try this thing. And all you need to play are 2 quarters and your soul.
I think the game is alive somehow.
If you won't play the game by my rules, then I'll play in your world.
Now, two teenagers will play for their lives.
Kiss reality goodbye forever.
And enter an electronic world where virtual reality has become flesh and blood.
Congratulations, Alex. You've almost made it to the final level.
Arcade. Kiss reality goodbye.
Yes, that movie looked like it was directed by the same person who did the full motion video for The Seventh Guest. Man, did that just look awful? It really did look like it was a full motion video PC game from like the mid 90s. Now, I understand that movie's from, I think, the early 90s. Still awful. Man, awful. Ugh. I'm sure somebody out there, isn't it Pete Straklich who takes some of these trailers and they're like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to go see if it's on YouTube to watch. There you go. I put you folks on the trail of another possible stinker. So there you go. Something else I wanted to ask. How many of you out there had never seen the entire Tootsie Roll commercial until I just shared it? I got to say, there's got to be a couple of you out there, because I remember that commercial, but I mean, I was a little kid. And then after that, it was always just the kid going up to the owl. A 1, a 2, a 3, a 3. Yes. All right. One last thing before we get into tonight's topic, I forgot to mention. The fine folks over at Mongoose Publishing reached out to ask me if there was anything that I needed. And I said, wow, I haven't heard from you guys in about 7 months. So get ready. Here comes a real shocker. I know most of you who watch the show are going to be absolutely stunned by this, but the marketing person they had when I last exchanged correspondence with Mongoose Publishing is no longer there. But hey, someone reached out and they said, yeah, we wanted to see if there's anything you need. And I said, well, is there anything you want to send? I said, this is what I've covered from you guys. And of course, they already know that I share news items about their releases all the time. So I got an email back. This was yesterday. I got an email back today with the order. They're sending me 9 books. And they also gave me like 5 PDFs of things that aren't out in print yet, including the brand new Traveler campaign, Infinite Suite, that I shared news about. I think it was last week. So I was like, wow, that's pretty wild. So very cool. We're going to be taking a look at a bunch of Mongoose Publishing stuff, the not too distant future. And Exalted Funeral reached out to ask me if I wanted to become an affiliate. So I am going to be an affiliate of our friends over at Exalted Funeral. So I thought that was kind of cool too. Valimir Cleaver said, yeah, that Tootsie Pop commercial was on TV a lot during the late 70s, early 80s. Yes. But like I said, it got to the point where it was only the kid talking to the owl. So it was like, yeah, like a 25-second commercial. Whereas the one we just watched is about a minute. All right. So just wanted to let you know about those things. And of course, Lots of reviews this past weekend. I'll mention those when we're wrapping up. So tonight, our topic is what I think the first key is for anyone doing any sort of world building for a role-playing game. And I know there are a lot of books out there all about world building, and they've got all these random tables. And I know I've talked to people over the years. I mean, we're talking dating all the way back to like the late 70s, early 80s, where the game master, dungeon master, what have you, has invested all this time into this grand campaign and this game world, and they're plotting all these things out, and they've got all the various different kingdoms and stuff all figured out, and they've invested months of work, and they play 2 sessions and it's over. They don't play in that again. And I know there are books out there that, they're like, oh, all these random tables. Oh, you start off with, I mean, I've actually read some books where, it's like, okay, so you start off with the planet itself, and then, you're doing all the cartography and stuff like that. Now, if you've got a program to do that on your computer, knock yourself out. Go ahead. Still takes time and energy. But here's what I recommend. Here's my key. And Valimir keeps bringing this up because this is my firm belief as well. You got to start small. You got to start small. Now, I'm not saying that you can't sit there and be like, okay, so, the big bad is going to be this NPC, and they've got these plots in place and their machinations. And I'm not telling you not to think about those things. But what I am telling you to do is just focus on what your players are going to experience maybe in the next 2-3 sessions at most. So the most important thing is that they have a starting location. And a lot of times if you're planning on running a campaign, if you're just looking to run a one-shot adventure, well, why are you wasting all your time on world building in the first place? Just drop it in someplace that your players are going to be familiar with. I see Captain Finity Time Travel Police is with us. Welcome back. Good to see you. Boomerman Dan Webb is also hanging with the gang. And yes, I did mention our contest winner, Kevin King. So that means he cannot win anything for the rest of the week. That's how this game works. So what I recommend, especially if you're looking for a sandboxy sort of adventure campaign, not necessarily a West Marches campaign, but fairly sandboxy, right? From my experience, we're talking mainly fantasy. We could go science fiction too. Even like horror, right? Player characters are part of an organization or a group or whatever, unless you're doing something to like bring the characters together. But as long as they have a base of operations, so maybe it's a village in a fantasy role-playing game. Maybe it's a space station in a science fiction game. Maybe it's the investigator's office in a horror role-playing game, right? Maybe, if it's like one of the characters, a private eye or something like that, it's their office, right? So you want to have some details about the home base. So you're going to start there. And If you're running a game for players that you're already familiar with, you will probably already have a fairly decent idea of what those players like to do in their downtime with their player characters. Now, if you're just starting a brand new game out of, basically out of thin air with players that you haven't got any experience playing games with, okay, well, you probably got a little more work cut out for you. But first thing you do, throw down some names. Now, do you have to sit there and name each individual that they're going to deal with? No. What you do, have a couple of columns, right? If you want to do like by gender, whatever, by species, whatever, right? You can make names that are, especially like science fiction or fantasy, pretty gender non-specific, right? It's like, okay, so Silver Heel Bedwetter, well, I don't know. Could be a man or woman, I don't know, right? So what you do is you have a list of about 10 names in each of your lists there. And then as your players send their characters out to do different things, you assign those names, right? So if they have to go to the livery, you're going to assign the stable boy the next name in the list. You're going to, if they have to deal with, the owner of the stable, okay, well, then you're going to assign the next name on the list. Rather than sitting there and populating your entire village or the entire area of the space station that the player characters are going to be going and buying equipment or trying to find some rumors or meeting with a patron or a contact or something like that. You don't need to sit there and individually name everybody ahead of time because it's just a waste of time. We're talking about the modern era of role-playing games. Ain't nobody got time for that, right? I mean, that's the reality of it. Most individual game masters out there don't have a lot of time to just sit back and, invest 8 hours one night into tackling, half of the town that the adventure is going to take place in. You just can't. You're never going to get anything done. And the thing is, you don't want to waste time detailing things that your players are never going to experience, or they're going to spend very, very little time interacting with, and B, that they don't care about. One mistake that you'll see game masters fall into, maybe not as much nowadays as they used to, is just invest all this time and energy into NPCs and just fleshing them out and giving them all these motivations and stuff. And then the players never encounter them, or the game master goes out of their way to make sure to just squeeze that NPC in no matter what, because of course the game master has invested time and energy into that. We'll continue, but let's see what's going on here in chat. So yes, Pete Strackler says, keep your world small. That's a must. Copper Standard helps too. It's good to earn that horse. Don't hand wave everything. Oh, anything. I'm sorry. Bamboozled. Great crowds joined us again. Good to see you. Says prep per session. I would agree on that with a caveat that, so something that I would probably steal from like a West Marches campaign, not necessarily that the player characters always start and end the session at their base of operations, But I would steal the idea of asking the players what they're going to do next at the end of the session. Oh yeah, well, okay, we're going to follow up on those clues that we got, or we're going to follow up on that map that we found. Okay, great. So now as the game master, you've got an idea of what you should be looking at for the next time out. Now that doesn't mean that the players aren't going to suddenly change direction. They're players. We expect that, right? But still, Roy Loveday's with us again. Good to see you. Kevin R. Smith says one of the best things D&D 4E did, and I'm not a fan of 4E overall, was the points of light concept, which allowed having a town and a dungeon in the middle of nowhere to make sense. S1C Sense is with us again. I believe we've seen them before. Elamir Cleaver says, tell the players no backstories, no Mary Sues, no character shields. They're all younger sons or daughters of ne'er-do-wells. First 3 character levels of the character's backstory. Depends on who your players are. I mean, if you're running Dungeons and Dragons, if you're running 5e or 5.5, and your players have played 5e and 5.5, you're going to be stuck with some backstory. But yeah, I agree. I'm not. The reason why I dislike players creating these really detailed backstories is because then they expect you to sit there and incorporate all of that into the game that's about to unfold. And if you were playing one-on-one, that wouldn't be an issue. But when you've got 4 players at your table or 5 players at your table, plus the game master, that's asking a lot, because those 5 backstories that people have created on their own are just never going to line up together. So that's why if you have not checked out the review I just did, I shared it yesterday. It is for Warhammer, the Old World Player's Guide. And the Grim Portent is something that is introduced in that, although they actually used it before, like in the Warhammer Fantasy Role-Playing 4E starter set. It's kind of a Grim Portent that puts them all together, but it's also something that keeps them together as well. Kevin R. Smith said, looks like Ohio's getting lagged tonight. Let's see. Yeah, 0 drop frames, folks. So it is whatever's going on other people's ends. Right, Bellamere Cleaver. The referee's not the player's monkey. Or as we like to always say, the unpaid entertainer. So Kevin King says, do you assign those names before or after reading the 292-page volume of the Language Construction Kit? After? Bamboozled Great Crowd says DMs who world prep never prep for rabbit holes. Yep. Kevin R. King says, oh, thanks to Matt Mercer, every NPC has to have a unique voice and detailed description. I don't mind the description so much. As far as NPCs go, the way I kind of look at it is that you should have kind of like 3 bullet points about them as far as what is noticeable looking at them, or, you know, if they have a body odor or whatever, right? Have 3 items to just kind of float out there real quick. I will say my players can tell when it's an important NPC, because unimportant NPCs I normally don't do voices for. So that's kind of a giveaway. I don't really mind that, though. The Madman says for East Texas University, they fleshed out the existing map to include businesses that were in the adventures I was going to run. Players appreciated knowing where everything was at in town. Nice. Chris Lundgren's joining us. Welcome. And he is hanging with his cockatiel buddy. Peter Acklet says, I can never remember my NPC's voices. It gets all mosh pits. Yeah, I think that happens to all of us. Especially if it's an NPC that it's been like a couple of sessions since they dealt with. But I've come to the realization they don't remember what the hell they sounded like either. So Kevin R. Smith says it looks like the lag was just a one-time thing. Chris Lundgren says, I had a new player come to their Osric game, him and this Osric stuff. Man, Chris has got to be getting a commission on this. Came to their Osric game, handed them a 15-page backstory. Are you kidding me? I'd be like, that takes some stones. That would take some serious stones to come walking up to my table, be like, here you go. Like, I'd be like, what is this, a screenplay? So as Kevin R. Smith says, I agree, backstory isn't a problem. A 30-page backstory is. Chris told that person, nope, make it less than 3 sentences. Yeah, well, I like, backstories to develop by way of their adventuring, especially if you're playing a game where the characters are supposed, like, okay, as an example, let's say you're going to run a Dungeon Crawl Classics funnel. Well, right there, those characters that your players get, the cannon fodder that's handed out, there's no backstory there. You've got an occupation, you've got your stat block, and then you've got like an item or two, and that is it. And then the backstory develops by way of the funnel adventure, and then the adventures that follow after that. That's going to create your character's story. That's how I like things to go. I think one of the reasons why so many people, I was going to say there are a good number of people who really intensely dislike funnel adventures. Some of them will tell you that they hate them. But I think a lot of it is because it's sort of like, well, I've got these characters. I don't have a backstory. I haven't been able to invest into these characters, where it's kind of like Chris Lundgren says, there goes Jeff with Dungeon Crawl Classics again. Chris, I talk about all different games here. Name me another game that's famous for funnel adventures. I'll wait. DB says NPC voice closet, Mrs. Doubtfire, Sean Connery, Mario, and the Swedish Chef. Gosh, I can't remember the character actor's name, but I was running a Pathfinder adventure for my nephew Cameron. Some of his friends, Elliot was there, and you may recall, if you remember, like old Lucy. Now I'm not talking about I Love Lucy, but like I think it was called like the Lucy Show, which was like in the 60s in color, or like some old time radio shows like Jack Benny. There was this character actor who would usually be some sort of an employee. Maybe like, excuse me, like Jack Benny would be like, excuse me. And then you'd hear, yes. they encountered some owner of a theater, and I was like channeling this actor. Thank you, Velimir Cleaver, Frank Nelson. I mean, and everybody around the table was just having a blast with it because they were the heroes, and he wanted to get them to perform at his theater, stuff like that. Velimir Cleaver says, well, N4 treasure hunts, a 0-level module. And go way back. I mean, nowadays, we do have some role-playing games out there that do try to utilize the funnel concept that are not Goodman Games, role-playing games. So low fantasy gaming. That's if you want to run a funnel. Let's see. So Chris Lendgren had to go use the Google AI to get that answer. Anyway, so getting back to our topic tonight. So make things small, right? So when you're starting off, let's say you're going to do kind of a sandbox adventure. If you're, running something that's going to be linear in that, get ready for, as already pointed out, the rabbit holes. But you don't tend to get into a lot of world building when you're creating a linear adventure, I don't think. And the reason behind that is because you're not really, the only thing you're really plotting out, and when I say plot, I mean, okay. Not, all right, this happens, that happens, this happens, that happens, that happens. Hello. We do have a lot of adventures that are like that. But normally the only thing you're concerned with is the exact things that are going to take place with the player characters. Especially if you're playing a role-playing game that's scene-based, then yeah, you're pretty much just focused on creating each scene, and outside of that, probably not that important. Now, if you're taking a sandbox approach, then what you want to do, if you're really looking for like emergent play and things like that, when you're doing your world building, your word building, so you're going to build some words. Be nice if I could use mine correctly. Anyway, what you're going to do is you're going to look at kind of fleshing out different locations, right? So those of you who recall or played, original D&D, basic, expert, AD&D, even if you've just read some of their modules and stuff like that, we would always have like the rumor tables. And we still have rumor tables in adventures. That's not unusual. But a lot of times those rumor tables would be like, oh, well, that rumor is true. That rumor is false. But even if a rumor was true, that might not be in the adventure, right? So what I recommend you do is you try to flesh things out with at least 2 or 3 locales, like adventure sites, that the player characters might go off and explore. So if you're looking at being in a town or being in a space station, then usually player characters are going to go off and try to, get some rumors, get some information, find out ways that they're going to be able to make some money. Find something that's going to occupy their time. And that's where you can introduce various different clues. Players can decide what they want to go off and explore. And then, once again, as I mentioned, when you finish up your session, be sure that you ask the players, well, what do you think you're going to do next time out? What are you going to go check out? Oh, well, we're going to go check out the the Moat House. I hear there's really good frog legs there. So what I'm basically just saying is start small. One of the things too about starting small that's good is you stay focused and you don't get overwhelmed. And that way, like I had said before, you're not preparing stuff that maybe is 5-6 sessions down the road. And who knows, that road may never even go there, right? That road that your players get on might bypass what you've worked so hard on. So that's one of the reasons too, because you avoid the disappointment. Because one of the things that I used to hear quite a bit, and I would think is probably still true today, when a game master invests a lot of time into crafting a world or a region or whatever, that they've gone and maybe they bought a couple of books about world building and they've rolled up all these things on tables and tried to concoct a fairly logical ecology out of things. Then the players don't interact with any of that. That can be a bummer. And that can be very disheartening for a game master. I mean, I'll be the first one to say, if I'm prepping for a Call of Cthulhu adventure and then we don't get together and play, I'm like, and then when we finally do get together and play and we don't play for as long a session as I was hoping we would, I find that disappointing. And I kind of sit there and I'm like, I mean, I get it. I understand it, but still it's, you're like, Chris Leonard also points out, don't get attached to the villain in a module. If the players go in a different direction, you can always reuse the villain later in the campaign. You can also repurpose that villain. It's not unusual for the big bad of an adventure or even a campaign totally turns out to be somebody that the characters just fixate on, the players, I should say, fixate on. And you're suddenly like, oh, well, okay, now we got our new big bad. Now, I'll give you a great example. I've mentioned this in the past, but it's been a long time. When I originally ran Massive Nyarlathotep, early on in the campaign, during the New York portion, and yes, sorry, some spoilers ahead. Campaign is how many years old? Right? It's like, now it's probably what are we at? 40 some years old? Anyway. So the investigators are trying to get their hands on some tomes of arcane knowledge from this house, from this mansion, essentially. And I kind of told the story before with one of the NPCs dies and one of the investigators just, kind of, it was like, whatever. And the NPC who died, who was like, he was one of the investigators, right? Had crawled back into the car, and that's where he died. And the one player had his character just drag him out of the car and leave him in this ditch. So came back as a zombie hunting, Paul and Ed and Elliot for almost I guess I shouldn't say entire campaign, but for probably a good month and a half of gameplay. And this is back. We played Call of Cthulhu usually like 3 times a week for 8 hours or more. So, and it was kind of like, came out of nowhere. And there are aspects of that, and we've talked about this before. My best friend Elliot doesn't have a great memory. Can't tell you what he had for lunch. But he'll get into the details all about Mike McCormick, the zombie. So yeah, you know, it's rolling with the punches. Chris Leonard says they finally got their copy of Frontier Space. It has those type of tables. It's cool to see that in a science fiction game. Peace Dracula said, after playing in a funnel, their players are having a blast with the Dungeon Crawl Classics magic system. It's blowing their minds. Their cleric keeps casting lay on hands and rolling a 1. Sorry, but after a long rest, you get 1 hit point. Nice. Very, very nice. All right. So that is it. That is your major key when you're doing any sort of role-playing game world building. Start small. You're going to have the big bad, the Dark Lord is returned. But you know what? Your player characters, they're not going to be encountering the Dark Lord anytime soon. So probably more important for you to focus on the specifics of maybe one of their lieutenants that the players are going to encounter, as opposed to fleshing everything else out. And I still think even today that it is far too easy for new game masters, new dungeon masters to kind of fall into the trap of, oh, well, you're going to world build? Oh, okay. Let's start off with the cartography of the world and all this other stuff. Nope. Don't do it. Go small. Plan ahead. Couple of sessions ahead. Have a few different adventure locales available. They don't even have to be completely fleshed out until you know your players are going to be setting off for them. Anyway, Agile Monks popped on in, good friend of the show. Says you'll rest a week, get 1 hit point back, and you'll like it. Original Call of Cthulhu, isn't it 1 hit point a day? As long as you're like resting and stuff. Just like the what was it in AD&D? Wasn't it a hit point a day? Oh, Amir Cleaver says, note to referee, you're not Tolkien. Yeah, that's for certain. We're just playing around with some of his memes. So that's about it. All right. So, what are we going to talk about tomorrow? I don't know. Maybe we'll just talk about Dungeon Crawl Classics. That way we'll have Chris Lundgren tuning in early, making sure he doesn't miss any of that discussion. Yes. Part of me wants to talk about the rise in trolls again. Like, what the hell's going on? It's always accounts that have nothing. It's just some fucking name. And then it's weird because it'll be like, oh, they have 6 subscribers. And it's like, oh, those must be the 6 aliases that this person has. It's like, I see. I'm sure. I don't know. We'll figure something out. So, also want to point out, once again, Forest of Spores is the giveaway tonight. So Kevin King already won a copy. He knows how to claim his winnings. But if you are watching live and you didn't have an opportunity to win, or if you're watching on Memorex, you want to get into the running to win a copy of the PDF, all you got to do, leave a comment in the comment section, and don't be like, I'm commenting for the contest, because I'm not picking that, random or not. a meaningful comment, I will randomly select one and announce the winner tomorrow on tomorrow's show. Should also point out, over the weekend, I shared reviews of the One Ring Hobbit Tales, the Warhammer, the Old World, a role-playing game player's guide, as well as, Chris will be excited about this, Dungeon Crawl Classics, Tome of Adventure 4, the Purple Planet. So if you have not checked those reviews out, give them a peek. Also, if you want to get into the running to win a copy of the Warhammer, the Old World Player's Guide in PDF, check out the video. If you're a longtime viewer, you'll have an idea of what the contest is already. Just got to stick to the same ones, but still. It is a specific thing that you need to comment about. So hopefully that means more people will be taking a look. Daryl Erritt's with us. Good to see you once again. Says they were here all along. Don't delete them. Delamere Cleaver talking about trolls. Some individuals have very unfulfilling lives. Yeah, I get it. I know. Here, we still got a couple of minutes. This has been kind of a shorter show, so something that kind of bugs me is when, like, I share a review and somebody comments and they're like, as an example, I had somebody who, for this, actually, because I liked it. I Sword and Planet, right? Harley Stroh and others, right? So anyway, yeah. They're like, I wouldn't buy that because of the cover. It's a hard pass or some bullshit like that. And it was like, it sounded very trollish, almost like a troll bot. And I went and took a look, and it was, somebody who's got no footprint on YouTube. So I even commented. I said, hey, this is comment's kind of trollish. I'm just kind of curious. What about the cover like turns you off on the game? And they're like, and they started going on about, oh, well, the layout and the artwork and blah, blah, blah. Really is really important to them. I'm thinking to myself, is it really? I mean, like those of you out there running role-playing games, is the artwork like that big a deal? If it was something that you were like, oh yeah, that looks really, I heard it's really good, but the cover artwork's kind of weak, I'm not gonna be sitting there like, well, fuck that, I'm not buying that. Look at that cover. So anyway, so then they get all pissed off. They're like, oh, I'm entitled to my opinion. I'm like, yeah, of course, you're entitled to an opinion. I'm just pointing out that your comment was very spammy, troll bot-ish, because it wasn't like, it was just like, oh, that cover, oh, no way I'd buy that. Why? But what kind of irritates me is when people comment on reviews and goddamn well they have not watched more than a minute of that fucking review. And they're like, oh, I'm going to share my opinion of this. And it's sort of like, people don't show up here for your opinion. It's like, give me a, and like I said, it's always some fucking bullshit troll account or some goofy ass name. And then you look and it's like, oh, they got 3 subscribers. No videos, no playlists, no nothing. It's like, all right. So I'm getting to the point I'm starting to think that when I get those, I'm just going to delete them. Well, I'm going to hide the users from the channel and then delete their comments because I'm tired of it. It's like, you know what? This isn't a democracy here. This is my channel. I don't necessarily have to leave other people's nonsense up on my channel. So, right, there you go. Valimir Cleaver says, you're entitled to your opinion, but I don't have to provide a platform for it. Kevin King says, at least a third of the books on my shelves have cover art that I do not find particularly appealing. As Kathy Evans points out, the content inside is what's important. I agree. I agree. All right, everybody. So that is it for this time out. If you are watching live, thank you very much. If you watched live and took part in chat, you get a tip of the cap. Because not only are you keeping me company, you're also keeping each other company as I'm sharing the news and carrying on about a topic, what have you. But you know what? I know a lot of folks out there, you don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you for taking time out to watch any of the videos here on the channel. It's really appreciated. Of course, if you like the video, by all means, give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. If you ring the bell, select all notifications. That way, YouTube is supposed to let you know not only when the Dispatch streams live, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings, as long as I'm healthy, at 7 p.m. Central. I'll also let you know when I share other videos, such as this past weekend's review of The One Ring Hobbit Tales from Free League Publishing. And I do also want to mention, if you are subscribed, you've selected all notifications, you are not getting notifications, I have heard from other outlets to tell you, unsubscribe, resubscribe. That, or at least I have been told, may take care of that issue. I don't know. I can't tell you for sure. All right. So I will be back tomorrow. Once again, I have no idea what the topic is going to be. But when you're not watching videos here on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are never going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Much appreciated that you've given this a watch. And of course, as always, I certainly hope each and every one of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.